Michael Craddock from Morgan Craddock. Welcome to Business Insider.
Thanks, Mark. Great to be here.
And on a distant journey from your hometown of Newcastle. But in actual fact, the Central Coast may prove to be a solid base for you, so that's why you're here. An interesting journey from even further away to get Morgan Craddock operating in Newcastle. Can you give us some insights into maybe one or two strategies that got you here, and things you celebrate or things you think, hey, I learned a lot out of that, one or two of those issues?
Okay.
What comes to mind, Michael?
Well, firstly, we're a management consultancy focused on corporate strategies and negotiations on behalf of our clients. So it's imperative in that whole sort of context that we're seen to be ruthlessly consistent with our advice, and that we have and uphold the highest of values of honesty. We are critical with our assessment of who to take on as clients, so that we are not going to disappoint them, and equally that what we expect of our clients can be delivered. So
you're smiling there, Michael, because often, is it 50% of the cases your clients or your prospects can't live up to that, or what are you finding? And we don't need names here, obviously, because I don't need to be feeding solicitors. But what sort of ratio do you accept at that level?
It's less about ratio and more about understanding who are the ideal clients that you want to help, and having a belief that you have strong value to deliver to those clients. And then the more you hold that belief, the more the right client, you attract those people. Okay. So and then it's a question of getting underneath the hood and saying, right, client wants this, right, but actually what is the need that's underlying that? And that's the difference between a good consultant and those who are sort of just happy to accept day rate kind of fees. They'll deliver the want, whereas we spend time getting to know the people, building that relationship, and then delivering the need.
Okay, cool. Are there any surprises that you've had since setting up in Newcastle?
I guess the surprise in terms of what?
I was worried about this, Michael, right from the start, that the interview was going to go back to me. Now, as I said earlier, okay, about what? I guess certainly in the big, even in Business Insider, you know, the ability for us to communicate has surprised. The intent that we need to go through to convince people about value has surprised me in this market. And I guess that's what I'm wondering about. Have there been any surprises, or you were perfectly prepared for the Nova Castra and the Australian, I guess, corporate psyche?
So no surprises really, in that the fact that I come from from the UK and from London, and there's a different kind of pace and a different type of cutthroat nature to the way that we want to do business dealings. But once you get into being a trusted advisor and into that mindset, it doesn't really matter what geography you're in. You are getting to the underlying needs of a person. So there's been no surprises that it takes time to build a relationship and build trust within a community. The surprise, I guess, for me is that some of the things that I knew worked in building our firm in the UK were the things that I should have done here and didn't do. So
some of those things?
So I'll give you an example. They're things like doing more marketing activity to add gravity to the fact that you've got this value to add, and remembering what the point of doing marketing is, you know, to establish your credibility, to give out value to people, and then the surprise being it takes time, okay? And so for me, I sort of forgot that it takes time for you to establish that network, for you to establish that trust level. And maybe given that I didn't have a network of people who I could give a reference for me, I was surprised at how long that has taken. But but happy to say that we're there with some very strong established relationships now. Yeah.
I think it's a really interesting moment where you say we don't realise how long it takes, and you don't need a change of geography for that to be the case. It's certainly been our case. We've been here on the Central Coast, and you actually, I think it's got more to do with recognising how truly demanding and realistically demanding clients are. And you think, okay, they're going to buy it straight away. I don't have a problem here. But indeed, that creation of trust is a critical process in all of our businesses,
Yeah, absolutely.
So in terms of the next 12 months, you are a bit of a social communicator in the networking process. Is there going to be more of that for Morgan Craddock coming forward over the next 12 months, or what? Do you have some strategies in place that you can share with us for the next 12 months?
Absolutely, happy to share the secrets. So there will be more activity in terms of use of different social media platforms. I guess we've got 2 spokes to our wheel, and we believe that there are 5. So we have strong content that's been delivered through an ebook. The first one on capital raising. We've got one that's been launched on the 20th of July, which is how to sell your business, essentially. But that is called The Deal, and that is more value. But one of the things we've realised is, a bit like yourself in the conversation we were having earlier, was you actually need to offer that content in different mediums. So we've established a YouTube channel, the Morgan Craddock YouTube channel, and we will be using that to broadcast sort of 30-40 second sound bites of that new book called The Deal. So that'll be the 3rd spoke to the wheel. The 4th spoke is we will be launching a new newsletter, and that newsletter will be growth strategies that cause dramatic impact. And there I'll be sharing a little bit more about me and some of the hiccups and mistakes I make all the way through deals that you can't know about, but they happen, and you have to react well to them. So I'll be sharing, blunders that are repaired. I'll be sharing some stories on how clients are successful and what it takes to really make a successful, high-performing team.
We might need to steal some of that. Oh no, the actual republish, I think, is the term these days.
Sure.
We look forward to that. Yes.
Be happy to. And I guess the 5th wheel for us, or the 5th cog of that wheel, we just don't know what it's going to be. But we're pretty sure that with guys like you getting involved in social media, that there will be something else. And so we're always open that right now there is a 5th cog to the wheel. We're just not sure what it is right now.
It's a great position, and everyone should be anticipating the investment in that sort of innovative position. And I don't think enough of us do, but that's a great position to be in.
And that's absolutely the way that we view it as an investment. We do spend quite a bit on building up our own knowledge internally and then disseminating that. And the best way for us to do that is through locking that content knowledge down into a booklet that's of value to clients, and then repurposing that into video, audio, but also making it more topical and relevant. So we are continually refreshing that knowledge with seminars and workshops.
Okay, that's cool. I was going to ask about, do you get out and talk to groups, and are you a presenter, or is
happy to talk for lunch?
Yeah. We'll keep that in mind. Okay. What about we talk about work-life. You work closely with your partner.
Yes.
Who's in charge of the work-life balance there? Do you get a vote in how you relax, or are you told?
No,
I mean that in the nicest possible way.
Yeah, for sure. There's obviously a close working relationship that my business partner and I have, because she's my wife, and that's Tony Morgan. So she's the Morgan of Morgan Craddock. But then there's that whole dynamic at home. We have 2 very young kids who are incredibly good fun. And I guess the reason why we have Morgan Craddock as a business is so that we can enjoy the flexibility of, if we've worked really hard and put on a great workshop or delivered a project, the reward for us is set before we go into that project. So we're very, very clear that if we've got a workshop, and we did this a couple of years ago, and Bob, who's behind the camera, was at our workshop. The day afterwards, we went to Heron Island, and we had a helicopter ride over. We rewarded ourselves, which helped us to motivate ourselves to actually put all the hard work into running a great workshop for all of the attendees. And so, yeah, so our work-life balance is all about, we reward ourselves for good, hard work.
It answers my question beautifully, and I'll check with Bob as to how good the workshop was. But certainly the discipline of saying, here is the workload and here is the reward is... Yeah. That's the point of these discussions in a lot of ways, Michael, because everyone says, oh yeah, we do it our own way. I think that's a neat way where husband and wife work together, and we've had some very successful people in here who I don't know whether they're actually quite disciplined themselves to that level, but it would help, I think. So yeah. That's a cool thing. Okay.
But it's helpful even to be asked that question, because it reminds you and says, well, what are you doing now? Did that work-life balance philosophy hold true 2 years ago, and is it still in place? So it's good to be reminded continually of that. So have we done enough of that rewarding ourselves? The answer is no. So having been posed that question, yeah, we'll look now to see, well, what other opportunities are there?
Yeah, but it is conscious. That's cool.
Yeah, it's conscious.
Now you get while you're loosened up and thought about that, I expect you to get incredibly emotional about the rant.
Okay.
Which is, if you could change something, in the business, in your business environment, what would you talk about for 60 seconds?
Okay. Yeah. Well, there's two things. So
not surprised that you have two. But
well, we've only got 60 seconds.
Yeah, indeed. Carry on.
Okay. So the first thing is selling your business is not a succession plan. In fact, what it is, it's the absence of a succession plan. Yeah. Okay. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is when corporate advisors and other management consultants are involved in a project, why is it that the professional advisors are already in there start setting up islands to protect their work, instead of seeing how we could maximize this for all? Okay. So
I like the second bit, because I happen to be an advisor, but I also view my tenure as incredibly limited. And work hard to make sure it is limited. Okay. And otherwise, we're not going to. If we've got to hang around, then where's the value? Can you talk a little bit more about those islands? They come out of nowhere, don't they? And often business owners don't even recognise it until it's too late.
Yeah, sure. I'll give you an example. I was on of the two different mindsets. So on one negotiation, I'm on the buy side, helping a company to acquire a company. And the vendor's accountant was particularly offhand with us in terms of our information requests, which from our perspective were genuine, and from the seller's requests were not perceived to be something that they should be disclosing. Okay, so we tried really hard to go, well, actually we're in a lot of agreement here. We want to buy, you want to sell. You've got so there's a premise.
That's why we're here. Yes.
We can pay this, and you're happy to accept that. Okay, so we're all still in agreement. Now there are some things that we need to work out, of course. But it became a really sort of head-butting exercise, and we actually just sort of stepped right back and just let the other accountant on the seller's side do what he thought was in his client's best interest, but he was head-butting some wall way behind me. We're totally disengaged in that process. Whereas if he had gone down the other route of trying to engage with us and to understand, well, what is it, Michael, exactly about that you want to understand? And I could have said, well, we have concerns about this. Why is it your client? And we never got into that conversation. Okay, so that's an example of where it hasn't happened well. And then I'll give you an example of where an accountant on the sell side, so I was acting for the seller in this case to sell to a large German multinational. The client, our mutual client, was concerned before he went into a meeting introducing me to the accountant that we wouldn't get on because of his past experience of two people just butting heads and playing tug of war. And in fact, it didn't happen like that. I came in and said, wow, this is amazing work. You've fully understood the tax position for your client. And he went, great. Yeah, no, I do. I think it was about appreciation.
Yeah.
Right? And then he came back to me and he said, I understand that you're good in this negotiation and you've set them on a new strategy. And I said, yeah, I have. And it's really working. Now, what is the most important thing that we need to talk about? And he said, I think it's this. What do you think? And there in front of us, our mutual client was amazed that within the first 15 minutes we had got talking about him and how we all can maximize the client's opportunity to sell and realize wealth. And it had
your client would have been excited with that, I think.
He was, and so that's where it's a different mindset that allows two trusted advisors to be in the same room together, working for mutual benefit and leaving behind, okay, well, I might get this fee and you might get this fee, and working out, well, how would we all benefit from our collective knowledge?
That's a cool thing. And it's something we often forget, or when we see hostility or difficulty, it is based on intransigence for whatever, and often irrational and poorly founded basis. So it's cool. Next time I get in that sort of situation, Michael, I'll call you for your negotiation skills. You could probably, I was going to say, you are being informed and educated by a leader in that field, so I think I may need to spend more time with you. Michael, as an aside, you're familiar and involved with the Founders Forum, I think up in the Hunter, and you see the operation of that. We've just had a testing of the waters down here for a Central Coast Founders Forum. You've spent a bit of time down here, you know some of the businesses. What will it take for us to get this concept, Founders Forum, off the ground down here, do you think?
Yeah, I think there's three things really in establishing a forum for entrepreneurs to pitch their ideas to investors. Okay, the first thing is that the ecosystem that feeds the trust amongst the three people who are involved: the entrepreneur, the investor, and the organisation. There needs to be several touch points to build trust amongst those three. Okay, so that's the first thing. The ecosystem of innovation and funding innovation needs to be really well managed. The second thing is that there are quick wins. Like in most businesses, you need
show me where it comes from.
Show me what this whole thing is about. Let's not talk about it for forever and a day. Let's plan it well, get the ecosystem sorted first, and then plan it really well that there are companies that will get funding on their terms and on the investors' terms. So there needs to be someone managing that whole process, and there needs to be results quickly communicated to the whole community. The third thing is a long-term mindset, okay? Because investing in high-growth technology businesses is a highly risky activity, highly fun and contagious, and anyone who's involved in it, as I am, will never stop. It's a bug, okay?
Addictive?
It is addictive, incredibly addictive, because there's a whole bunch of energy on creating things. But the key thing is it's got to be viewed with a long term. So in setting up your ecosystem, you've got to really focus on who are the guys who understand that there's a lot about giving here. There's a lot about giving in and continually giving, and it's a commitment to give in order to generate more and more of the next Australia's best technology, Australia's best entrepreneurs, and starting to attract more of those people to come back to Australia, share with the local people their expertise in running a global business. So it's, those three things.
Well, and I think that will come as a difficult piece. Well, I guess it comes as a difficult piece of learning for everyone, but Alan Williams from Blink Technologies was sitting in this chair talking about he's got a pretty solid track record,
sure.
and
he sure does.
in this space. But he focused on the giving idea. You know, the fact is you can look at 10 and you give to 10 and you win from 1 if you're lucky.
Yeah.
But I think he was getting at, and not put quite as succinctly, but I won't tell Alan that as you, but it is about recognising that you are there to encourage and grow opportunities, and sometimes they thrive and sometimes they don't. So if we can get that here with Founders Forum long term, fantastic, and understanding and that trust, I think is cool. Yeah. And get some runs on the board early. It's a that is really key. Get those rungs on the board and then communicate those. And they may not be just, okay, we've invested in this business. It could be simply that your man from Blink has been able to connect one of the local companies with a major producer over in the States, and they've made their first step to going global. Okay, that's huge, and so it's not just the dollars. No, it is.
So I encourage anyone becoming an investor to understand that mindset of your connections can assist, and it's not just about this price difference of I want this percentage in your company and I want these dollars. There has to be a systemic frame to the entire conversation.
As there has been with this conversation. Thank you, Michael.
My pleasure.
Okay, thank you.